All right, so it is time for our interview with the band Smoulder. We had 3 members of the band.
We're at the Finnish healthcare part of the show. We're here. We're there. We finally got there.
We're really been enjoying the new album. We got to discuss a lot of it. We got to discuss how a band works on 2 different continents and much more. So take it away. We definitely learned a lot here, and we got a lot of insights on this album and answers to a lot of our questions. So take it away.
Okay.
Well, great to talk with you guys. Loving the new album.
Yeah.
I was just, in fact, we were just had it on a little while ago, and it's so big. And the name of the band seems to fit so well. Smoulder. How did you come up with that name, and what does it mean to you guys?
When Sarah and I first started, we wanted to have a simple, like one word band name that hadn't already been used, and yeah, Smoulder fit perfectly for a doom metal band. I don't remember what the exact definition of it is, but
yeah, I mean, we just kind of imagined it being like the smoldering remains of like a village after you kill all the men in it. Set it on fire.
Yeah.
So that was and we looked it up and yeah, we just looked it up and it wasn't used, and instantly we were like, all right, we're gonna register that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect because it kind of describes the sound, because it's always that pulsating background with kind of the flames. Like, it's perfect. So your inspirations are always like fantasy and swords and magic and death. Were you inspired by any particular books, movies, games? What kind of is your muse there?
I mean, Michael Moorcock's obviously a really big one, given that he did he wrote the Elric of Melnibone series, and I mean, he did the narration on the album, which was a really big deal for us. And yeah, like the obvious ones I think are like Robert E. Howard and like the Dune series, and
Path of Witchery from the new album is about the Bene Gesserit, the space witches from the Dune series. So
yeah, and a lot of like sword and sorcery films in particular that we really liked. Like the first song on the album, like Violent Creed of Vengeance, was just like essentially taking all the themes from Deathstalker and rewriting it into a movie that I liked more.
Talisman on the Blade.
Oh, Talisman on the Blade, yeah.
was definitely influenced by Deathstalker.
Yeah.
And,
right, Violent Creed was my own story.
I love the Manila Road street sign behind you. Is that an actual street sign?
It could be, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Could be.
That's very cool. Yeah.
It might be acquired. You never know.
Yeah.
It may have been procured in a very legal way.
There's a story there, right? Yeah.
We brought him a road cone one night and we don't remember doing it.
Yeah.
That's a rare path.
I really love your commitment to releasing albums with no fillers. There's never just we just threw this together. What is your process to ensure that it remains that way? Because I think that's so huge with you guys.
Yeah, we're pretty
fighting.
Right. I think it's just essentially write more songs than you need, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are a bunch of songs that didn't make it onto the latest album, and they may still make it onto a release someday after we continue to edit them, right? And add parts, remove parts, make sure that they pass quality control and so on. But I think that's the main thing, is if you write 4 or 5 songs more than you actually need for the album, then then the fighting starts, because you're all debating which ones to cut, right?
And we had 11 tracks ready for this album, and eventually, I'm and I feel weird saying this, but I manage the band, and so sometimes it's like, this song's not good enough, and this song's good, but we need to integrate more edits or we need to do
Yeah.
something like that. So yeah, it's just like a process where if like someone in the band also feels like something's not working, like for this record, we just were like, all right, well then that song's not done, so it's not going to make it. Because we really, I think it's really important to write a cohesive, strong album. And I think a lot of bands, especially with the advent of the CD, a lot of bands have been like stretching out their album times longer and longer. And that's not to the benefit of the listener. That's to basically the benefit of the artist. And a lot of those artists that had been doing or have been doing that, it's not upping the quality of the writing. It's just diluting it and making it crappy. Like the standard has always been like since vinyl, you know, was the main release focus platform was like albums should be 40 minutes long. And if they're not, it's going to cost you a lot to do a double LP. So most artists focus on doing a 40-minute record. And I think for us, like almost every single one of our favorite albums that's been released fits on a single LP. And it's like that all killer, no filler mentality. Like I don't want to listen to an album. Like even to this day, there's hundreds of thousands of bands you can listen to, or like in an embarrassment of riches period. If I listen to a band and I skip songs, I don't buy their record. Like, what's the point?
Right.
I know like hundreds of thousands of other bands that do write that consistently, where it's like, all right, that deserves a purchase, you know?
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine online about it the other day. I was like, remember the good old days when a Metallica album was only 45 minutes and a Maiden album was only 44 minutes? I mean, those were
Yeah, we do not need like a 62-minute like Empire of the Clouds, like what? Like,
oh my God, I
so
know.
boring. Like, and like that's just not like and think about a lot of the albums, especially that have come out lately. Like the new Halloween record would have been way better if they had chopped 25 minutes off of it. Like there were so many great moments, but it would have been so much better if they had cut out all the fluffy stuff.
Yeah. And then you can go the other way too. There's classic albums, right? They'll be reissued and I'll be like, there has to be an extra song that didn't make it onto Thin Lizzy Bad Reputation. Nope. No, nothing. You know, or something like that. You know, I'll be like, oh, they had exactly 8 songs. Seriously? You know, wow, you know.
Yeah.
Editing is a very important skill that very few artists excel at.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah.
Editing and pacing is a very important
like
flow album.
Even though there are some songs in the Smoulder archives that are good songs and could get on a release, the last song we added to the album was Spellforger, right? And there's a reason it's the 3-minute, you know, quick punchy one. That's kind of how much space we had left, right?
Right.
So, you know, and that fit into the pacing of things. Whereas if you put 3, you know, mid-tempo or slow doom songs in a row in the middle of your album, then you might kill the flow. So
yeah, and I think too many bands they put all their strongest songs on like the A side
Right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning, you know, the first few songs are like the ones you remembered the most, and
then the album gets
kills
successively worse.
Yeah, kills
the
flow of an album, and we very deliberately didn't want to do that on any of our releases. So
yeah.
That's very refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost comes close to like the way it feels with you guys. It almost seems like a cohesive story. Like it's this close to being like almost a concept album. You know, I love that feel. And your titles are so epic: Violent Greed, and then Times of Obscene Evil. I love that. Do you ever have like working titles before you arrive at the final one?
oh God.
yeah.
Titles are like an embarrassment.
We have a bunch of working titles for Violent Greed for sure.
I don't think I can say all of them.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. But Times of Obscene Evil, like that is a line from a story by Michael Moorcock.
Moorcock story, Greater Conqueror.
Yeah, so like it was such a huge win for us to get him to not only like write some stuff for us for the album, but also narrate it. That was a big deal. But Violent Creative Vengeance was different. Well, actually, maybe it wasn't, because there was, I think part of it is from a line from the Enchanted World series. And those books are like these really beautiful, I guess the best phrase for them is like archival tomes, but they like, they focus on like teaching about like certain mythical creatures or certain mythical holidays. And then they basically tell all of the stories from across world cultures. And they're really lavish and like beautifully designed. So I'm fairly certain that that one came from like, I think it was like either a Hungarian or Ukrainian folklore story about Baba Yaga. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, that fits really well because a lot of the album is about violence and getting violence because you want revenge. So yeah,
Mhm.
it
I love
worked.
I love the artwork. I mean, it's so important to have such good artwork. I can't tell you how many times I go check out a new band and I'm like, God, were you just trying to save money with this artwork? Who did this? You know, like this
Yeah.
is that's the type of artwork that you need.
I love the fact that it's very tribal looking, but I couldn't tell you exactly what tribe. Is it Viking? Is it like
Amazons.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah, the book-
muscly.
The book that it's from is called Amazons 2, and it's like a collection of short stories.
Yeah, it was published in the early 80s and it's all about like female warriors. Because all of the pieces that we've used have already been published on fantasy like DAW books from the 80s.
Mhm.
And we've been quite lucky because obviously Michael Whelan is like very renowned artist.
Yeah.
And it felt really good to be able to get multiple pieces in a row, all of which show women in positions of power. And not only are they in positions of power, but they're not heavily sexualized. And that was kind of the issue that I've always had with like fantasy painters like Frank Frazetta. Like you don't really get women who are clearly gonna be like the murderer in the images. And I, you know, like I don't want women heavily sexualized on our albums. And so yeah, Michael Whelan is like, I don't know what we're gonna do for the next record. We're gonna have a pickle.
I mean, he's
It's
still
gonna be a pickle
Michael
situation.
Whelan's still got probably hundreds of
that's the men
games.
way in the background fighting?
Yeah, they can just be dying and
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we definitely want like the inverse of that. Yeah, that kind of stereotypical thing. Like even that album we were listening to yesterday had something that was really reminiscent of the Eternal Champion Armor of Fire artwork, where you know there's a muscular man with a big sword and a woman kind of fawning.
yeah, saving a helpless naked lady.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks.
I was just thinking about
Entire album, Long Live the
Oh,
Land.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
It has art like that as well, right? And like, yeah, I wonder if we can actually find like the actual complete inverse of that. Maybe we need one with a man doing that.
We might
Yeah.
need to just get it made.
Just
I
fawning.
mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that maybe that is the eventual step.
I mean,
but,
yeah,
like
like
if we run out, we'll start to
the
mix
cover
around
of
with
Times is
new
like
stuff.
pretty much the closest thing because like
Yeah,
that scene from the book is literally her saving him. So like
right.
and he's got such a juicy butt, so
Well, that's
Yeah.
a good reason for saving him. Then.
that last Eternal Champion record is like I rule over the dragon and I'm doing everything topless, you know. So it's like, empowering, yes. Hard not to notice the toplessness though. Yeah. So yeah.
That's how she distracts him.
Apparently, yeah.
I like the in the Viking series on TV, they had the whole shield maiden thing, and I was like, oh my god, I wish I could have done that. And then I was kind of bummed to find out it was only written for the story. I immediately Googled it, I thought it was real.
I actually haven't seen that, so I don't know.
It's good. They have all these like female warriors, and they call themselves the shield maidens, and they're all like buff, and they can take care of themselves. But it's no evidence they actually existed. But maybe.
What are some of you guys' favorite album, epic battle album covers of the past? Like, what are some of your inspirations in terms of artwork?
I love Omen Battle Cry. I think that that's like a very like iconic album cover. I mean, we like anything that looks beautiful and like has bright colors because I think a lot of metal has kind of conformed to the stereotype. It's like, oh, it has to look dark and brutal, but I think like bright colors are very striking.
yeah,
And like the brighter and like the more diverse of a color palette you have, generally the more iconic your album becomes. Like Rainbow Rising is a perfect example of that. Like that's an album cover that has gone down in history as being like one of the most instantly recognizable ones.
yeah, like a lot of the middle of road artwork is definitely like has that same feeling that we wanted to go for. Like the Sierra Thungle album covers, obviously it's the same.
Mhm.
I love that Frost and Fire. The green really pops.
Yeah, and like Blind Guardian and Halloween. Hammerfall, those
Yeah.
all those bands have like epic, colorful, painted artwork.
It's the same with like Chastain.
Yep.
Like the Chastain album covers are really strong.
Mhm.
I
With,
mean, some of the Judas
and
Priest ones, some of
Cauldron
them are not great
Born
at all,
as
but
well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that run of Priest albums though that have the really striking solid color. It's
Yeah.
Screaming for Vengeance,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
we
Defender.
share some words in the song title or the album
Yep.
title with.
Defender of the Faith.
That's not an accident, right?
yeah. Yeah, you need something that like when you pick it up, you can hear it.
Yes.
You know, because like that was what got, I think, most of us into heavy metal. At least that's what got me into heavy metal, was like being 12 or 13 and picking up an Iron Maiden album cover and being like, oh my God, what is this? This
Yeah.
looks amazing. And that's such an integral part of heavy metal, especially because like we are all vinyl collectors, we're all like physical format collectors. We still constantly are looking for records and buying things. And like to this day, I still, if I find an album cover that I'm like, holy shit, this like kicks you in the face, I'll
Yeah.
just buy it in principle. If it's not great, then fine, whatever, I'll trade it for something else. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's such an integral part of the heavy metal experience to like have artwork that speaks to what the music sounds like. And I think, yeah, any artist, any heavy metal band who's like, oh, I'm doing this because it's cheap, like you're selling yourself short,
Mhm.
and your
Yeah.
fans will respond accordingly.
Yeah, like the first Pantera album, it looks like a cereal box or something. What were they?
Those are special. let's get
Yeah,
more intentional with shitty artwork.
Projects in the Jungle, yeah, is
Metal
yeah.
Oh, it's
Metal
so-
Magic had a great cover.
yeah, but great in the same way that
They got-
like Heavy Load is great, where you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's actually pretty
They got-
bad, but it's so bad. It's
Or Artillery Terror Squad, where it looks like
Oh yeah,
a child druid or something. I heard
Yeah.
that they went to give the masters to Neat Records, and Neat was like, "Where's your artwork? We're not giving you artwork," and they had to like scramble and get like the brother-in-law to do it or something. That was the story I heard.
that makes
yeah,
sense.
that's a bad time.
Another-
Neat Records was so, historically always known as being so cheap.
Yeah.
You know,
Tacker, Battle at Helm's Deep also
Battle
comes
Hump
to mind.
Deep. Yeah,
Great
very
album cover.
muscly, very muscly. Yeah.
So what prompted Sarah Ann and Sean to move to Finland?
Mhm.
And how does that affect the band? Although there's more and more bands that are cross-continental these
Yeah.
days.
True.
It was for healthcare. The Canadian healthcare system's like really underfunded. It's not as bad as the US, but I'm chronically ill and my healthcare costs were skyrocketing, and I didn't want to die young and broke. So we moved to Finland, and my healthcare costs went from like, they've dropped by, yeah, like, what is it? We're paying 1/20th what we used to pay in Canada, and my healthcare is way better. Like, it was just such a good change. And not only that, but like I'm a dual citizen. So it was very easy, and our band's really big in Europe, and touring in North America is a nightmare because the cities are all 14 hours apart. And it's like, for a band like us, like our audience is, a lot of it is in Europe, and obviously like traditional heavy metal is definitely experiencing a revival in the US, which is fantastic. But it's just, yeah, it's like, yeah, touring in Canada and the US is awful. It's so bad. So yeah, I think it was the best decision we've ever made.
Yeah, all the biggest like underground metal festivals are here.
Yeah.
You know, we've already been lucky enough to play several of them, and we'll be playing more next year.
Yeah, we have friends and family here. Like, we've spent time here previously. I mean, Finland's the most metal country in the world. Like, there's the most metal bands per capita. And like, we both love traveling for shows, and almost all the shows that we want to see are here. So it was logical for us to leave, but it hasn't changed that much of the band. I mean, there's more like logistics to figure out, but it was that, when we formed the band, we initially were living in Calgary, and then we moved to Toronto, and we had gone to Frost and Fire Festival in California, and that's when we first met Colin. We asked him if he wanted to join, and then he asked Kevin to join, and then when we recorded the demo, like we were already living in 2 countries.
Yeah.
So it was just like,
Yeah.
okay, this is just a project we'll do with our friends whenever it's fine. And then the demo completely exploded unexpectedly, and so then Adam came on board, And then we started playing shows and we were like, well, like the thing, like what's best in life? Like traveling with your friends to play festivals in other continents. Like that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So we were like,
Yeah.
well, who cares if we're separated? Like it means that now the band is paying for us to travel internationally. Like we're pretty lucky.
Yeah,
Like we can't claim anything else. We're extremely lucky. Like our band pays for our lifestyle. Like it's crazy. We're so privileged.
It really sucks with healthcare here. Like I hurt my knee pretty bad in my dance class. And of course I go to orthopedic and they want me to have an MRI and they'll be like, that'll be $500 and some dollars. I'm like, we're just gonna see if it gets better first.
Yeah.
Well, do you have to make
That's brutal.
Well, that's exactly it.
yeah,
Like,
the American healthcare system is just totally broken.
oh, it's so fucked up. And like you guys deserve better. And
Yeah.
it sucks because so many artists are chronically ill. Like so many people that I know that are in the traditional heavy metal scene, there are so many chronically ill artists. And so many of them are living in the US and they're really, really struggling. And people don't really talk about that, which is too bad because I think that people should, because artists are some of the most marginalized people worldwide. Like artists are synonymous with having like mental health issues, with having like chronic health issues. And like the fact that we're not adequately compensated for what we do and people constantly like want our stuff for free is just like very frustrating. And you know, we've been pretty vocal about that, just from our own experience and from the experience of like the people that we care about. Like we've seen these kinds of things like happen over and over to artists that we love, and we're just like, I think it's extremely unethical and it's very frustrating. So
You don't typically get health insurance through your metal band, right? That's
exactly.
the same way you do another employer. So yeah, it makes it tough.
Yeah, it does. But incidentally, I was at Reaper Bond last week because I actually work for Bandcamp. That's like my day job. And I was speaking, there's a new there's like a trade union now in the US that does provide health insurance for musicians. So that's really positive because
Cool.
yeah, I was like, we're gonna email and I'm gonna send this to everyone I know because I know so many artists who are just like living off of like GoFundMe's, which is tragic.
Sort of
So-
similar, this kind of shitty practice in the US of the club wants a portion of your merch money. I am sure you've run into that. Is that better? I would think that would be better in Europe, or do you still run into that over there?
It depends on the size of the festival and
Or the events.
or the
Yeah.
event, or if like if the festival is running the merch, then yeah, they'll take a certain cut, but most of the time, well, yeah, it depends on the size of the festival.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as like predatory in our experience, but we're also not playing 1,000-person venues, you know? Like, because I think that those kind of practices get implemented at larger venues as opposed to
Mhm.
smaller ones. And like, for example, we played Stormcrusher Festival on this tour and it was fantastic. And they were like, yeah, I like to pay our merch people, like we take 15%. I'm like, 15% is reasonable, you know, like it's not
Mhm.
cutting so much into your profits that you're going to walk away with nothing. It's like enough that you can also be like, all right, well, we're going to maybe raise our prices a little bit to like adequately compensate for that. And that's not enough to make fans be like, oh, I can't afford this anymore.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, you know, we haven't really had to deal with it a lot yet. We actually dealt with like wonderful people the entire tour. Like
Yeah,
all the
and
organizers were great.
the
So,
majority of the shows on the tour, we were doing our own merch anyways, so
yeah.
Yeah. So in that one case, it's because, well, they're doing the work for you. They have
yeah.
set up infrastructure for it and so on. They have to
Yeah.
pay those people. So it makes sense, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was curious about the weather. How's the weather in Finland compared to Canada?
It's
I mean, we live by the
similar,
sea, so it's like
but-
it is a lot more wet.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
little more, I mean,
Although Toronto's pretty humid, right?
Yeah.
Where in Canada we're talking.
I think this
Is
is
it
even
more
more
humid
humid
than
here?
Toronto for sure, but it's also just been like the forest fires for the
Right.
entire summer have made Helsinki like very overcast because climate change is kind of terrifying. So yeah, like the last month it's just been like very dark and the sun has barely come out and it's just been pouring rain. So it means that right now there's like mushrooms everywhere,
mhm.
which is that part's cool because we've been picking a lot of mushrooms. So
We had perfect weather through 90% of the tour, though. I think it
That's true,
rained
yeah.
once while we were touring.
It
It
rained
was,
on
we had
Like-
actual summer.
Yeah,
That was because we didn't have summer in Helsinki this year. It was too cold.
of course, we weren't in Finland for that.
Yeah.
but,
yeah,
um,
it was quite warm going through Central Europe, like through from Slovakia
Germany,
to
especially.
Leiden,
Mhm.
through Austria and Germany. It was quite warm, yeah. But
and it was a beautiful day today.
We're in Baltimore, and we just had a week in September where almost every day was 90 degrees. It was so
Oh.
good. Now we
Mhm.
got some tropical storm coming through, so it's been pouring down rain here for a couple of days. But
yeah,
It's really-
it's 90, it's September.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy.
Climate change.
Yeah.
That's how.
yeah.
I'm excited to come visit Finland in the proper winter, which I think I will end up doing this winter because
Yeah,
we're planning some
you're
shows
gonna-
in
When
February.
it's super dark and everyone's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I know everyone, everyone hates it eventually, but I'm just curious from I want to see what it's like. And last year being here a little closer to the time when it was
Solstice.
daylight all day, I want
Yeah.
to see the opposite of that, which is when it's total darkness.
Yeah.
I'm just really curious. And being Canadian, I think it's a bit of a lateral move because I live in Toronto. It's not the cold. It's everyone in Canada clusters towards the border in the warmest parts.
Yeah.
But I have been up north. I have gone camping in the winter. I can handle the cold. I have some really nice thick jackets, so I think I can handle it. But we're gonna find out this winter if
We're gonna find out. Yeah.
we can hack it.
Yeah, the light is what's different. The weather's not that different. It's just like when you're so close to the North Pole, like in December, we get like 2 hours of sunlight a day. And that happens for, like it's already at the point where the sun's going down at 6
Yeah,
and it's getting to be the dark period now. So it makes Finns and like people living closer to the North Pole like uniquely insane, I would say.
There's got to be a connection between that and why there's so much metal there and so much dark music coming out there. There's got to be,
Yeah, I
But
mean,
also-
I'm fairly certain it's actually been postulated in like university theses.
Yeah,
as
probably.
well.
Yeah.
yeah, and just the fact that I think Finns have like less to worry about in terms of like healthcare and like housing, that they just have like more free time to work on art. So
Yeah,
that contributes to how many metal bands there are.
You kind of
Yes,
cocoon in the
absolutely.
winter, right?
Yeah.
You stay in during the winter and you work on.
yeah, you don't have to
Your
worry about
projects.
like losing your house if you lose your job or like
Mhm.
losing health insurance if something happens. So like people are just a lot more relaxed here.
Yeah,
A lot more relaxed. It's quite striking. Like moving from Toronto, like one of the probably the most stressed out cities in the world. So expensive, cost of living is like so high, especially during the pandemic. Yeah, it's night and day difference.
Mhm.
And here's the night.
Sarah, it seemed like your vocal delivery was even stronger on this album and more powerful than even the last one. So do you think this change kind of helped, now that you're feeling healthier and less stressed, or what affected your performance? Because it's outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely that. Like I've been working out a lot, like a lot. And like I do a lot of like weightlifting and running and hiking and climbing and swimming and kayaking and like all sorts of stuff like that. And a lot of it was just like management of like my chronic illnesses. But it actually had a really significant impact on like how much I could sing and how well I can sing. Yeah, in like 5 years, I lost like 18 kilograms, so like over 40 pounds. And it actually does have a really significant impact on my voice because like my stamina and my longevity has been so much better. So yeah, a lot of it was that, and then also just wanting to be better and wanting to get used to being on stage and stuff, because I'm the only member of Smoulder who didn't have a band before Smoulder. So for me, I was quite nervous and like internalized a lot of, the misogyny of heavy metal, and was like, all right, well, now I have to deliver on stage like 10 times better, because if I don't, people are going to judge me really harshly. So a lot of that just came hand in hand with each other. And when we wrote the album, especially with some of the vocal lines that I wrote, like I was writing absurdly complicated vocal lines and I was realizing it was very hard to sing them. So then I started training while singing, and that really changed things. Like I'd be doing like a 15-kilometer uphill hike while singing. And like once you can do that, you can sing pretty much anything. So a lot of it was that, like just being like, all right, I'm gonna go hike whatever mountain and do Spell Forger 26 times in a row. And like that was the only thing that saved me. Because yeah, it was hard.
Also, the guitar work, the melodies are so layered and plentiful here. Do you normally start with the riffs, or did they come later, or how is that usually done?
Typically the songs, like the music is written first, and then the lyrics and vocal melodies will go in after. That's pretty much how we've done most of the songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I'll really spend a lot of time working on the guitar parts before introducing any vocal melodies. So.
Well, but also like everyone in the band, I think, plays multiple instruments. So everyone, when they write songs, like everybody writes pretty complex, different lines, has different like ideas for where the vocal melodies will go, for where the bass lines will go, where the guitars, where the drums. And once we all start then coming to final edits, like I prefer the songs to be finished before I start writing lyrics, because I find that if we do it another way, then everyone we fight more.
Yeah, like,
like we just fight way more if I do it in the middle.
Midnight in the Muir World probably took the longest to complete. It started out, one of the earliest versions of it was like 13 minutes long. There wasn't very many like riff changes, and like we had some of the lyrics written, and then it changed like 3 or 4 times until we got to the final version. And in that case, some of the vocal melodies did and like lyrics did change. Some got removed, some got added. Yeah,
everything got moved around. That was a really interesting song, because like it felt for a long time like we should just give up because it wasn't working. But then when it finally clicked together, it was like, oh, this is one of the best songs on the record. Great.
I was very happy with how it turned out.
Yeah.
I think the biggest
Bass really plays super nicely with the drums really well. Do you plan that, or do you have to jam that out, or is it just kind of organic?
The bass and the drums fitting together, it's all composed ahead of time, right? So especially being remote, everything gets written down, and we send files back and forth, guitar profiles and tabs and notation. And by the end of things, we record our own parts at home, and we'll send those all, say, to Sean, and who will mix them together as like a rough demo and so on. So it's not the sort of thing where we're just kind of jamming it out. It's the sort of thing where we're sitting down and writing it very intentionally and saying, okay, here's the bass line, here's a drum part that fits into that bass line. And folks like Kevin, our drummer, really knows his theory, really knows how to make harmonies work and things like that. But all of us have a degree of knowledge, especially of our own instruments. So, I understand how a bass line should fit with a drum part. And my primary contributions, particularly on the first album, were to songwriting, were in the bass lines, because I'm playing the bass. So that was mainly things like fills I've added when I said, this bass line is really straightforward. I'm playing straight 8th notes, and this riff happens 3 times in a row. So how about the 3rd time, halfway through, I can start playing something a little different, play something that adds a little melodic flourish. And so that happens in songs like Warrior Witch of Hell and Bastard Steel on the first album, where there are definitely some bits I've added there to add a little spice. And I've always been really happy since I joined Smoulder that the bass is not an afterthought. It is composed along with all the rest of the instruments and given thought as to what its role is, what its purpose is. And it's not just following the guitars. It's it's playing chord tones and things like that to emphasize the important notes of the riff and so on. And I think that the most important thing I'd say about the songwriting style and the guitar parts being layered and complex and interesting and all that is that it's very much still a riff based band. It's not a band where it's like we have a chord progression and a melody line for the vocals that is like the vocal hook, and we're just going to copy paste verse chorus verse, right? That's nothing is copy and
So
pasted.
boring.
Nothing is copy and pasted. Even when a section of the music repeats, 99% of the time there is going to be something different about that riff
Yeah.
every time it happens in the song. One of the guitars will play something a little different. There will be a different vocal line, or the bass line will change, right? Have a different fill, or the drum part will change.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I'm thinking of like Victims of Fate. The second time we play the first riff that happens after the intro, it's shorter, right?
Mhm.
So the song kind of condenses, it kind of speeds up as it goes along, even in the composition. Not there isn't like a tempo change,
Yeah.
but some of the parts, we play the same part, but we don't play it all the way through. We end it faster, and these things really add up to the songwriting feeling really dynamic.
Yeah, we always like
Bass or
particularly
guitar?
plan out the songs,
Mhm.
and they're always like, yeah, fully completely written before we even set foot in the studio. So
Well, they're
Mhm.
also, not only are they completely written, but they've also been rehearsed for like months straight.
Yeah, and we've put together our own demos even, so
Yeah,
that we can
like-
listen to them and make sure we know they're good and they're up to quality standards.
Yeah, like we're really careful about being tight. Like everything needs to be tight, everything needs to work. Because like, yeah, the band exploded so fast and we started getting these opportunities so quickly. And like being in underground metal, like this isn't obvious, we're not making loads of money by any stretch, but like what we want, at least internally, is to be able to break even. And recording albums costs money, and flying to festivals costs money, and like doing all these things, it costs money to do it properly.
Right.
And so all the money that we make, we reinvest into the band. And I think that you can hear that, you know, like we're so careful about every single thing that we do, because we know how lucky we are to actually have people buying our records. Like
Yeah.
that's shocking that people buy our records.
And
Like-
I love that about you guys, because you can enjoy every single second, and I never find myself losing attention or getting distracted, you know. So I think you do it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
great to
I
hear.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
The Skullforger and the Talisman and the Bride are the fastest tracks that with that epic feel, still doom element in there. What kind of influenced you guys to kind of up the tempo on this one a little bit?
There's
Well,
some Blind Guardian in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, Blind Guardian is like my favorite band of all time, and they've
They're
always
okay.
been an influence on my writing. And
It was also just
The-
being really angry after the pandemic.
yeah,
Everybody was
that-
like
that had a
so
lot to do with it.
frustrated, you know, and like everyone was frustrated. Like not just us, everybody in the world was frustrated. It was a frustrating several years, and everybody was working out, you know, all of their frustrations with the world and their situation, and like, you know,
Mhm.
all the people that we knew who had died, and all the people that we knew who, like, you know, got long COVID and all these other things. So all of us were just really frustrated and really angry, and like
Mhm.
trying to find like a healthy, creative way to like deal with that, instead of just doing what a lot of people did, which was like becoming little like hate-filled internet gremlins. Like we really didn't want to go that route. Like we wanted to do something creative that actually meant something to us, and that we could like, you know, build community with. Because like the band, we've always really been invested in like building community, and it is a hard thing to do when you're a heavy metal band, because heavy metal is like rife with a lot of like problems which are reflected in society as a whole. But you know, we've really cultivated like this very interesting, like committed, passionate, and very diverse fan base. And I think that in the context of metal, like we're quite unusual in that sense. Like our fan base is diverse, and that's exciting. Like I love that. Like I love that, you know, people are flocking to us because they're seeing that and they're hearing it, and they realize that like we're very committed and like passionate about what we're doing. So yeah, there's a lot of elements.
The
Yeah.
doom still comes through in the Dragon Slayer's doom. Definitely, I was like, wow. Yeah.
Yes.
Although like you can't say dragon now without bringing up Game of Thrones, can you?
I
You're-
can.
There are dragons in other
Yeah,
media, yeah.
I'm really obsessed with dragons. It's not very cool. I don't care. But I think that's like the best, probably the best song we've ever written.
It's really epic. Really.
It's very big,
It's that was a lot of fun to play. I really love that one.
yeah.
very
Yes.
hard to play.
I might prefer Victims of Fate, but those two are my top picks from the album.
All right.
Yeah.
So we play a little game. So with three of you, I guess we'll do 2 questions apiece. I have 100 questions, random questions in front of me. So I want
Okay.
each of you to pick 2 numbers between 1 and 100.
Right. 23 and 42.
69 and 21.
I was gonna say 420 is not, it's not in the range, Sean.
89 and 4.
Okay.
Yes, we will start with Joy. Jen. Have you ever seen a ghost?
Who's
So
this
who-
question for?
Who's that?
Well, that's 23, right?
Yeah.
23?
Is that yours?
No, I've never seen a ghost.
We get all kinds of answers to that one. Yes.
I bet you do.
Sorry, can't say I have.
All right. Do you consider yourself a do the dishes person or let them soak person?
And that's number 42.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm a do the dishes person. Absolutely. And I mean, to expand on that a little bit, because I didn't expand on the ghosts, but the other day, Sean and I were hanging out here, and I wanted to try a recipe from this book, Hellbent for Cooking, where a bunch of metal bands have added recipes to the book. And
Great title.
yeah, a friend of ours put that together.
Yeah.
And I wanted to try one of the recipes. So Creator had a recipe for vegan oat burgers. And so we went to the grocery store. I got the stuff I needed for that. I made the burgers, and then Sean went and did the dishes, and we just had that brief, handshake on, whoever cooks doesn't clean.
Mhm.
So we
right.
take turns doing that, taking the responsibility. But yeah, I think in general we're the type of group to like
We're all functioning adults.
we take care of our shit, that's important to
wash
us.
our underwear. We clean
Yeah.
our dishes.
Yeah,
We do things that adults should do for themselves.
we take adult responsibility for
Yes.
ourselves.
We've asked a lot of bands that question, and the one that got the most excited was when we asked Gene Hoglan. He said, I love to do the dishes. Like we really hit on something. So in case you didn't
Yeah.
know, Gene Hoglan loves to do dishes.
Say, look, hey, that's great. I mean, that's if I'm someone's guest, I'm staying at their place. That's a really great way to show your appreciation.
hate doing the dishes.
Help out
Hate
because
hate it.
I don't mind it at all.
We have a dishwasher for like everything in every apartment in Finland is a dishwasher, and I've never had a dishwasher my entire life. So like I grew up always being the one who did the dishes, like in a family of 5.
Oh,
And then
God.
lived in Toronto, we only had one sink and no dishwasher. And I hated because I'm a messy cook too. So I make a million of them. Oh, I hate the dishes. Love that we have a dishwasher. It's a blessing.
Gotta be more efficient with your pots and pans.
Hell no. I'm gonna be
That's right.
even less efficient.
I know you've tried, Sean. I know it's a whole thing. We love to cook in this band.
Yeah.
Also, like on the tour, we hit grocery stores on our rest days, and we cooked big meals for ourselves because we were trying to stay healthy and kind of do the opposite of drink every beer in the fridge in the green room. It was like I had my little lunch bag, my insulated bag, so that I could take any leftover salad and put it in there, and then put that in the freezer, and then have some sandwiches that we keep for a couple days, that kind of thing. So yeah, we take cooking and doing dishes very seriously in this band. That's what the next album is going to be about.
I do a lot of cooking tips on the show. It's funny. I show you how to make hash browns with a potato. And then I learned how to make pickles this year because our garden exploded with cucumbers and we had no. I
Yeah.
made him really spicy. He would eat like a jar a night. And I said, well, I'll take him into work. He's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, I know. No,
I'm not
fuck.
getting the
Those are
pickle."
my
those
pickles. I love pickles also. Like I eat them all the time. We also
Well, you
have
can
a
give them the
garden.
recipe, but I get
Crazy.
the pickles.
Yeah.
Oh, and I should give credit to Anik Giroux for that book, Hell Bent for Cooking.
Yeah.
and
Because
he does-
anything that's like guilt-free snacking, I love. Like if she makes salmon or she makes pickles or something like that, because I don't feel bad eating all of it, you know?
All right,
Yes.
moving over to Sarah's two. We'll start with your first one. If you could learn a skill you do not currently possess, what would it be?
I really want to do oil painting. And I'm working my way up to it. And I've gone through a couple books already on the human form because like the great fantasy oil painters, like Michael Whelan is obviously one, and so is Frank Frazetta and Boris Vallejo. They did the Rubenesque kind of like very statuesque, like, athletes essentially. And I really want to be able to do that myself. So I've gone through now 3 books, and right now I'm doing the third and final one, which is the worst and hardest thing I've ever learned, which is drawing dynamic hands. So I'm drawing 200 pages of hands in every single position. And once this is done, then I will start oil painting because you need a studio because it's very toxic. So I want to be able to paint Raphaelite men and Raphaelite women.
Maybe one
Killing-
day you'll be painting the Smoulder album covers yourself.
That is the goal, actually.
Yep.
Like I do the artwork in our liner notes. I designed our emblem. So I really want to do that. And I want to do it so well that you don't know that it's not Michael Whelan and that it's me instead.
There you go. Yeah.
Which is the big goal.
All right, next one for Sarah. If you could bring back a fashion trend, which one would it be?
Wearing like a necklace strung of like skulls. I would do that.
Right.
I could see that.
Human skulls.
Any kind of bones. I mean, I have some bone jewelry, but I get a lot of dirty looks when I wear it. I like bones. They're pretty interesting.
So I have so many. I have a skull tattoo.
I like bullet belts a little too much. A little too much. Like I could probably wear them every day if you know.
Feel like I can't
Okay,
do those with
Sean
music
is up.
playing.
Oh,
What is your favorite play from Shakespeare?
I don't even have one actually.
Really?
Was Macbeth Shakespeare?
Yes,
Yeah.
Macbeth, and that's
Okay.
the one with the witches.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I'd
good.
probably
And then he
say
goes
Macbeth.
nuts. Yeah, Macbeth's great.
All my Macbeth knowledge is from various heavy metal songs that have referenced it. So I would say Macbeth.
Mhm.
Tropical storm we have right now is Ophelia, so there is a Macbeth.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ah,
Sean, we gotta watch the Kurosawa film that's based on King Lear. I think it's called Throne of Blood. I think you'll like it.
okay.
All right. Have you or anyone in the band ever had a wardrobe malfunction?
Mm,
a wardrobe.
Uh, nah,
no.
we're pretty comfortable with nudity, so it would never be considered a mistake.
Yeah,
Oh,
you know,
it's true.
I had my shirt off for the last show, and I planned on taking it off halfway through the show, but then I just I spilled something
So-
on my shirt
and it was hot.
beforehand.
That
And
counts. That
Like,
counts.
I guess I'm just topless for
Yeah, like
Black
I
Forest
play
Fest. It's fine.
I play without a shirt and just my leather vest and just like black pants and boots. So there's not really much that could malfunction. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess hold on. Colin did have that story of someone in the front row was like pointing at his crotch while he was playing a show, and it was throwing him off, right? Because he was being distracted, like, is there something wrong with my playing, my pedals, what's
Like
going on?
right in the middle of one of the harmonies at the end of Warrior Witch.
Yeah, one of the tough
The guy
tricky
just like
parts.
pointing at him and he's like, what?
Something-
I'm trying to play here.
Yeah, and realized when the song was over that his fly was down. So
Oh,
that's
my-
that's what the guy was. But what are you gonna do? Are you gonna
Stop playing.
stop
You're just gonna
playing
be like,
to fix it? Yeah, no, you can't do that. So I think that counts. I think
Yeah.
that counts as a malfunction there.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of wardrobes, me and my brother were going back and watching the old Megadeth videos the other day. We were watching like the Rust in Peace era, and we realized that they had a dress code. Nobody has shirts on. Everybody's got the pastel jeans, and everybody has the white high tops. It was like, wow, Megadeth had a dress code.
So that's
I didn't realize it at the time.
Every band has a dress code. Every band does. Like,
even if
you
the
know,
dress code, we don't care about.
yeah, that's
the dress code, right?
Like every band's got one, and people don't talk about it. And it's like with us, like we are like, it's hot on stage, and we want to look seedy.
Okay.
And seedy is like such a specific way of looking, you know, like being topless, for example, like Reverend Bizarre used to play topless. And all of the old reviews of their shows in the early 2000s, people specifically would comment on how weird and yucky it was that all of these big, sweaty, drunk dudes were playing topless. And I was like, I can't think of like anything more punk than being like, fuck you, it's hot up here.
What's
You
funny,
know,
that's
like,
not what I was going for.
I like it.
You know,
It's seedy.
usually I've always had like a sleeveless shirt on,
Yeah.
and been a little more well coiffed, where I have the rings and the spikes, and
Yeah,
with
but you're the better looking member of the band.
Oh, yeah. What I did with my look this time around is I did want to show a little more of my feminine side, so I had painted my nails purple, and actually the secret to that is it's a midnight blue, almost black, and then you put official Barbie pink on top of that
Oh,
to make it a nice like
Yeah.
glittering purple. Anyhow, I was doing things like that, but yeah, the funny thing is, intentionally or not, like I didn't think of myself as seedy when I took my shirt off, but I just thought of myself as looking good on stage. But I did have someone come up to me right after that performance, the first. And speaking of dress code, I'll get there. But speaking of dress code, we were joking about. I always used to joke that the number one rule of being in the band was no sleeves on stage.
Yeah.
You have to show off. You have to show off your arms and your muscles.
right. Okay.
And then we were talking about that, and all the other guys pointed out, hey, you know what? We've kind of upgraded that because none of us are even wearing a shirt, Adam. So get on our level, No shirts on stage is the rule. So I said, okay, fine, I'll take my shirt off like during one of the breaks. Because why not? It's kind of fun. I spun around my head and people whooped and hollered.
Yeah.
But yeah, then one of literally the first person to come in and talk to me after the set poked me in the belly and said, "You got to work on this." After I took my shirt off on stage, yeah, and I asked what they were talking about, and they said, "You eat too much." And so so Sarah's right. Apparently, I looked seedy and inappropriate, even though I just thought it was a cool look to be
like
showing off.
I specifically don't wear a shirt because of like the Reverend Bizarre. Watching Reverend Bizarre videos is like, yeah, and they
cool.
were one of our biggest influences when we first started the band. So I was like, yeah, and like when I first started playing live, like I'm not gonna wear a shirt. I'll just have my vest. So.
Yeah.
We used to joke about we flip over like I can't remember if it was Sign of the Hammer or it might have been Battle Hymns, and we used to just say how long do you think they flexed in the mirror?
Oh, all the time.
How long do you think that?
They
that
love
session
themselves. They love themselves.
Yeah, just how
Not
much
only, like,
time?
Such an amazing band, but they're like not in on the joke, like they're amazing, but they're so silly and they don't think it's funny. And it's like, oh buddy, like you gotta embrace like the bizarro, like the ridiculous, like homoerotic,
Right.
Like metal is like it, and that's the thing that makes metal so weird is that like some people are in on the joke and they find the excess funny, but so many people like they internalize it so much and then they become like very like hostile and like acrimonious, and it's just like, dude, are you seriously being hostile and acrimonious? We're literally singing about like fucking a giant metal eagle. Like you have to see the humor in this shit that we're doing. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like and I wish that there was a lot more gender balance, because if I could get away with it, I would also go topless on stage, but I don't need my tits all over the internet and I don't need a bunch of weird dudes commenting on my tits. So instead I just wear like a black
thing, just duct tape.
Yeah, there's that.
yeah, it's just like it's too societally sexualized, and that's not who I am. I'm not like, I don't like being like looking outwardly sexual. It's just, it doesn't do anything for me. But like, yeah, it is something that we've talked about where I'm like, man, I would love to get on stage and do the exact same thing that you guys are doing, like black shirt or black pants, topless, seedy, sweaty, in your face, like, you know, because I constantly am pulling people up to me and like screaming in their faces and like being very, like, I'm very aggressive. So it's like we're all kind of like playing with all of that, but it's all like with our tongues firmly in our cheeks because we think metal is hilarious and we love it, you know,
Yeah,
because
we have a list of Halloween costumes potentially, and the Lemmy Wendy-O is one of them. So
there
we
you
have
go. You just need your balls out, you know, and the shortest shorts you can
Yeah.
find.
Oh, those Daisy Dukes. Oh God.
Yeah. Oh,
When he wore those. Oh, and he thought he looked so great, and everybody else was like, "Oh, please."
he did look so great.
Those classic Sabbath.
Hell yeah.
Like the big leather.
Yeah.
Leather.
So you guys all are done with this European tour for now. So what's next up for you guys?
One sec, my alarm thing's going.
Well, yeah,
off. It's very loud.
we're already in the planning stages of various other tours next year. Like we've already been announced for the Hell Over Hamburg warm-up show, and then there's a festival happening a week before called Steel Hell High, so we'll be playing shows in between that, and then we'll also be making it to the UK next year, possibly Spain and Greece. So
We got a lot of stuff coming up.
we got lots in the works. Yeah.
Right.
So do you think you guys will come back to the States maybe for a tour, even though you hate it?
I mean, we'd like to. It's just the economic barriers that are in place for artists and the fact that they're planning on almost, what is it, tripling the cost of an artist visa?
Yeah.
Like prices like those, like it's going to cripple the touring circuit of the US.
Mhm.
Because if you can imagine adding with 5 people, that's adding what, $7,000 of cost to a tour that probably will only break even.
It's already exorbitant.
See, I
Right?
didn't know
Yeah.
about that, but I chalked that up to the government's like, well, we lost money during COVID too. We got to make it up. So that's what that shit comes from, I think.
I mean, I guess,
Yeah,
but it's like
it's
it's the
bullshit.
same thing that like with Brexit, they're making artist visas for the UK, but the problem with like having those types of like situations is that like the people who can afford it, okay, sure, but like an underground musician
Yeah.
who's just breaking even, like this is why we're seeing so many artists canceling tours.
Right.
Because people cannot afford the costs, and it's not fair to expect artists to act like to take on that kind of burden to entertain you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like economically, it's just like completely unreasonable. And it sucks because so many artists are like, I want to make it, so I'll just go into financial ruin. And it's like, that's not reasonable for you to do that or to like put that kind of pressure on yourself. So
It's got to be hard not to feel squeezed with that going on, and then you're not making any money on streams, and it's just
It is. That's exactly what it is. Like big, really huge artists obviously don't have to worry about it. But
Right.
an artist like us, like we're breaking even. We're not, and none of us is willing to we're not remortgaging our houses so that we can play shows. Like that's
right. Right. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like Spotify, I was reading this article about how Spotify works. My $10.59 a month does not go to Sirith Ungol. It does not go to Iron Maiden. It goes to Billie Eilish and shit like that. They're the ones getting that money, even though I'm listening to the good stuff. The money's going to, these pop stars.
That's why you got to buy things on Bandcamp, because then the artist gets paid.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, we do a feature on our other show about Bandcamp every show.
Oh.
And,
They're my favorites.
Yeah.
That's where I get most of our wall art comes from.
'cause it's
Bandcamp Friday.
it's the best remedy to this stuff. It really is. I mean, direct communication with your audience, and all so much of the revenue goes directly to the band. I mean, thank the Dark Lord for Bandcamp. We love it. Okay. Well, this was great. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.